Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to Ne0 Gets To Know, the show where I get to speak to pros from all over the world, every scene, every scenario. And today I'm joined by the wonderful Ins from Grayhound. Brother, how you doing?
Doing good. Just had a quick shower after prac, and now I'm just pleasure to be here, interviewed by you, mate.
There we go, mate. Well, let's go back to the start. I think it's the best question to start things off. What is your story? How did you get involved into CSGO? How did you get involved into esports? Where did it all sort of begin for you?
Yeah, I think my story is very similar to a lot of young pros when they first start. I was introduced by my brother.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have a gaming PC, so just before school, I'd get on his and just play. I'd play Source,
A
so I'd play
classic,
like
yeah.
CS Office,
Mm-hmm.
Dust 2, like Internode servers, and I just became really quickly addicted. I never thought it would be like a career or anything for me. It's
Mm-hmm.
kind of just hobby outside of like seeing my friends and stuff. I just come home after school sometimes, just play pretty
For sure.
much. Yeah, that's pretty much basically how it all started.
And then when did the kind of the conversation and the thought process in your head about, okay, I can actually make this, professionally? When did that sort of start to rise? Was it kind of a case of, playing on a couple of teams with mates and you realize you were kind of a little bit better than them, or did you kind of start grinding out kind of domestic leagues? When did that kind of conversation about pro start happening for you?
I think for me, it was probably like I was just pugging basically
Mm-hmm.
in Australia when I was like 14, 15. And then when I first got picked up by an organization called Corvidae,
Yeah.
that was with Gratisfaction, Alistair,
Mm-hmm.
players like that. That's when it kind of became like a real thing. I was traveling to domestic lands and stuff
For
like
sure.
that, playing online tournaments. And then yeah, I think that's where it all started and became real for like. I mean, my parents didn't think it was anything real. They thought,
Yeah.
oh,
Always the case.
he's flying. Yeah, they thought
Yeah.
like, oh, he's flying to this event and he's I gotta go with him or else he's not going to be safe and stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's when it all became real.
For sure, for sure. And kind of what drew you to sort of CS:GO over kind of the other big titles, of course, like League, Dota, Siege, even Overwatch, for example. What kind of drew you to CS:GO? Was it kind of that source background that made it easy to transition?
Yeah, I think it was just my brother played Source, and I really liked it.
Hmm.
When CS:GO first came out, I hated it, to be honest.
For sure,
I
I
just
think
kept
that's
playing
pretty
Source for a couple
standard.
of
Yeah.
years. Yeah. I don't think many people like CS:GO when it came out,
Hmm.
like, especially like people I've experienced. But then over time, after the updates and all that, I became just addicted to it, and I've always been a very competitive person, so I loved the idea of just improving and trying to be the best, and that's just basically how it came about.
And how long did it take you to get better than your brother?
I'm pretty sure I was better than him when I was like 12. Don't tell him that though.
How does he feel
He was
now
like
as well that you're
16.
pro?
I mean, I think he's very supportive.
Hmm.
So he's super happy to see me like traveling the world and making
Sure.
money and doing everything. I think he wishes maybe had the opportunity as well, but
Hmm.
it is what it is. That's how
Of
life
course.
goes, I guess.
Yeah, that's it. And of course, recently you guys have been playing under Greyhound, and you just brought Vexite into the team. I mean, how's that addition been going?
Obviously, it's been a stressful few months for us with all the organization stuff,
Yeah.
but we're very happy now with fitting back in Greyhound. Like, uh, the manager and the owner of Greyhound is
Hmm.
one of my really good mates. So, and he's a good mate of everyone here.
Hmm.
But with bringing in Vexite, he's brought a new energy, I guess. He's got that
Of
young zoomer
course.
energy that
Yeah.
is probably something we lacked at times.
Hmm.
And he's always pushing others around him to improve, which is like a huge thing for a lot of our players.
Awesome. And now, of course, with Vexite, I think for a lot of people who kind of follow the scene, Vexite's seen as one of the hottest prospects. I mean, he's a seriously talented dude. As you mentioned, he's still so young as well. Kind of, what's the goal now as a roster? I think kind of, you've seemed to have found that last kind of puzzle piece. Now, what's the goal with this roster? What's kind of the realistic thing you're looking towards kind of for the future?
I mean, our goal always is and always will be to compete with the best teams.
Hmm.
I think we just need time and we need experience with European teams.
For sure.
Obviously, Declan Vexite, sorry, he's only played once overseas,
Hmm.
so he needs a lot more time, and he will just improve
Of course.
like so quick because he's so young and he's always willing to learn. I think the main goal for us right now is just being able to compete and not just bombing out of events. Like honest, like to be
Sure.
honest, just
Yeah.
not bombing out of events and competing with the best teams. Like that's always been a dream of ours.
For sure.
So that's the goal.
Of course, like kind of for yourself, you kind of for a lot of your career were kind of seen as one of those star players, and now you kind of made that transition to IGL. How's the transition? How's the transition been, and why did you go for it as well?
To be honest, it wasn't my choice at first. It's
Right.
kind of just what happened. all the timing, like with Dexter going to Mouse.
Hmm.
We tried out multi IGLing for a little bit. That wasn't working out. People weren't happy, so I just stepped up. I said I'll do it.
Hmm.
Um, it was definitely hard at first. I've kind of had to change. I don't know. I guess it's really hard because I'm not really a loud person, which
Yes, yeah.
every like IGL is considered.
Hmm.
So that's probably the hardest thing, like because my personality is a bit different to other like leaders.
Hmm.
Um, so that's something I'm still working on to this day. But yeah, it was definitely hard. But my team's always backed me, and that's helped me throughout everything.
And aside from kind of yourself being, you mentioned you know a little bit more on the kind of quieter side, I guess. But what other challenges are you face kind of changing to IGL? 'Cause it's kind of tough shoes to fill, especially with Dexter going.
Yeah, I think I just kind of had to, I guess, put my ego aside
Hmm.
and like recognize that I wasn't like fragging IGLs very uncommon.
For sure.
And it was something that I tried to be really good at, but I had to kind of put my ego aside and realize that maybe I'm not going to put up the same numbers as I was when I
Hmm.
wasn't IGLing. Um, so yeah, I guess that's the main thing. And then just trying to focus on helping my teammates like play the best they possibly can.
Of
And that's
course.
just the main thing. That's super hard and
Yeah.
underrated, I guess.
Yeah, I feel that. And I guess obviously Dexter's a pretty good name to kind of learn under. How important has that experience playing with Dexter? I guess, you know, you didn't really think about it at the time, but learning under Dexter, how has that going to help your IGLing?
Yeah, I mean Dexter is obviously really good. Very calm as a leader, which is something that I kind of um, learned from, I guess. I always tried to, I guess, take over what he like brought into the Greyhound roster and
For
all
sure.
that. He kind of set the tone nice and early, and I just kind of bring that along to the rest of the new additions coming in. Even though it's not naturally their play styles, but
Hmm.
it's just something that we're still trying to work on to this day.
For
And
sure.
obviously, Chris Dexter is a really talented player, and I learned a lot from him, not even just IGL wise, but like just individually as well.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I think kind of the recent news as well. I in Melbourne just finished. I was on the desk. You obviously playing. I mean, how good does it feel to have kind of gigs back in Australia? I mean, it's been. I'm right to say it was 2019 was the last time we had one in Australia. So it's been a long while.
Yeah, I think last time I was in Sydney. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's been a long time, and honestly, sitting in front of that crowd, it was fucking awesome. Like
Yeah.
just playing the groups like just instantly instead of playing backstage, just playing in front of the crowd. It's such a privilege, and the crowd was all cheering for both the Aussie teams, Vertex and
Yeah.
us, and they were super cool. And even the Brazilian fans coming
They were
cheering
nuts.
for Imperial and Pain.
Hmm.
God, it was so cool. Even just watching after we got knocked out, it was amazing time. Hopefully, we'll see it again soon
Yeah,
with
and
like a tier 1 event.
that's it. I mean, everyone's begging now for a major back over there, right? I mean, Sydney was. I mean, I think it's one of the more iconic ones, just because of all the brilliant stuff that happened. But you know, you mentioned the Brazilians that were playing. Of course, they ended up being in the final in the end. You got a pretty respectable third place, to be perfectly honest, and a map off them in that side of the game. I mean, how did it feel for you guys to be playing against essentially what is legends of the game with Imperial?
Yeah, I mean they are legends of the game. They're a very tough team.
Hmm.
Um, we honestly thought we could have taken a map there. Like we were very confident
Close,
going in,
yeah.
even with a stand in. But at the end of the day, we were just there to have fun. And yeah, no, I mean it's a privilege to play a team like that. Names such as Fallen, Fur,
Hmm.
Bolts, like all of them. They're incredible talents as well.
Fair enough. And of course, I guess on a slightly damper note, we've kind of had you know the recent results at Fortress. I know you sort of already slightly you know mentioned that. Do you want to just talk us through your thoughts?
I mean, I don't want to say too much because yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want to say too much, but obviously they were the better team on the day. There's no excusing that.
Hmm.
Um, our main goal now is just to work hard. We just got to practice. We're gonna bring everyone to the gaming house and do a couple weeks, 3 weeks
Of
before
course.
PAX. I think we have.
Hmm.
So we're just gonna be grinding the shit out of the game until PAX, and the goal is obviously to win the RMR
Yeah.
and get that spot at the major. And it's definitely not going to be easy.
Hmm.
These Asian teams are
Correct.
they've improved ton for like so much as well.
Hmm.
So, but that's just our main goal. Obviously it's disappointing to lose. No one ever wants to lose, but our main goal right now is just winning that RMR.
Does it worry you at all, kind of with that loss being kind of so close on the run up, or is it kind of maybe the other side that it's showing that the scene is starting to grow in a sense? Like I think a lot of people would have made the argument that you guys at the moment are the only kind of top level team coming out of kind of Australia, for example, and this has proved that potentially there might be a few more coming up.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of individual talent, I'd say, in
Mm-hmm.
Australia. It's just very hard to find the right group of people that have the same goals and want
Of
to win
course,
everything.
yeah.
I think for us, that loss probably couldn't have came at a better time, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest. I think we haven't lost like an important qualifier in like that in a while, so it's good to get that out of the way before the RMR. I
Of
think
course,
if
yeah.
you're looking at the bright side of things, but yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the Australian scene has become way more competitive, and we've noticed that for a while.
Love to see it. And another thing as well, I guess at Melbourne, you didn't have Vexite. I think this is pretty important for you guys. How much that sort of dampen you guys at all? How much does that hinder you and kind of help hold you back? I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we were practicing with Vexi for what, a month and a bit
Mm-hmm.
before Melbourne, and then we obviously knew Hats was going to be playing because of the roster lock
For sure.
and stuff like that. So we had maybe like four scrims with Hats. Um, so it's kind of just like I was just kind of free flow calling.
Yeah.
No, not really any set rounds. We maybe
Mm-hmm.
went over like 1 or 2 rounds on Nuke, and just talked about the smokes and stuff like that. And then kind of just wanted to everyone play with extreme confidence and just
That's it.
if you have a play, just go for it, back yourself. You're on stage, just have fun with it and try to hype the crowd up as much as possible.
Love to see it. And of course, you already mentioned, right? You won the run up to the RMR. You got Rare Atom as your first game. It's a pretty tough first game as well. I mean, Rare Atom, I think a long time now, been essentially seen as the best side coming out of Asia. So, I mean, how are you feeling coming off that? What's the kind of preparation? What's the thoughts like with that opening game?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Rare Atom is compared to the old style of, I guess, Asian CS is
Mm-hmm.
they're a bit more European meta more
Yes,
than
yeah.
the other teams. So I think we'll have a lot of good prep for them. Usually we don't like to anti teams that are more unpredictable because
Mm-hmm.
we just get in our own heads. But yeah, Rare Atom are a very good team. I think they're probably one of the best teams at the RMR, to be honest. So
Yeah.
it'll be a tough matchup, but we're confident going in for sure.
Love to see it. And what kind of things are you guys doing? I think you mentioned kind of you're doing like some sort of boot camp. Is that going to be the kind of the priority just before the RMR itself? Boot camp, just getting ready for it.
Yeah, it's more just like obviously because the RMR's in Australia, we can't travel to Europe.
Of
There's just no
course.
point traveling to Europe, doing a boot camp, coming back being jet lagged
Yeah, yeah,
with
for
little
sure.
time. So we're just gonna try and make the most of Australia, um, do a bit more scrim times and more theory time, and just like bonding, obviously because
Of course.
Vexite's new, we haven't had too much time to bond. But yeah, we're just gonna be grinding non-stop pretty much. That's the goal right now.
That's what to say. I think for Oceania and kind of Australia, New Zealand, that the regions had it's tough times over the last kind of a few years. Kind of why do you think that is?
I mean, to be honest, it depends what you mean. Like if you mean in terms of in-game
Well,
or
more like kind of on an international scale. I think kind of especially since I think people call kind of 2016 and 2019 the kind of the golden era, and of course there's been like things like COVID and all these things I've added. Kind of why do you think the scene at the moment is kind of I guess not reaching the levels of the golden ages?
yeah, honestly, I'm actually not too sure. I wish I knew because maybe we could get better. But
Mm-hmm.
no, I think they don't. I mean, when you think about 100 Thieves roster,
Mm-hmm.
they played in NA for a long time before
For sure.
they even got like any results at all, and or they played in Europe as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it's just so hard to improve in Australia. I think that's just because of the lack of teams and the lack of players.
Yeah,
Um, I think the only way you're going to improve really is spending long amounts of time overseas,
for sure.
and that's what we've tried to do in the past. Obviously, it's tough being away from home and all that, but it is what it is at the end of the day. We all have the same goal, and yeah, just we have the pieces, but we just can't seem to like work it out.
Mm-hmm. And sort of outside, of course, I think everyone understands like kind of being in Australia means there's very few teams to scrim against. You got kind of just the kind of the top or the top three, I guess, or the top four that are around you. So ping issues are a massive thing, and the structure of the scene being so far away makes it very difficult. But kind of as the scene is itself, I know like for example in the UK. Everyone's seen as being kind of egotistical or toxic, right? It's kind of a standard thing. But do you think there's anything that's the same in kind of your region that kind of holds you back in a sense?
I don't think so. I don't think anyone really has a massive ego or anything like that. Um, I think everyone, like the thing with Australian people is like they're very, I guess, they're very laid back. Like
Okay,
a lot of
sure.
our players in the scene, like we're super chill.
Hmm.
We're just here to play. There's no gatekeeping or anything like that. I've heard people
That's
say
good.
that in the past where like they don't want to bring in up and comers because everyone's gatekeeping and they're just recycling the same players.
Hmm.
I don't think that's ever been the case. To be honest, I think if you're good enough, you're going to get the opportunity, and that's shown with Vexite. Vexite's
Of
obviously a
course.
super talented guy, and we wanted to bring him in for a long time. Um,
Hmm.
and I think if you're good enough and you have the potential, you'll be brought in one
That's
way
what
or
I say.
another.
I think another thing is kind of, if you look and compare kind of, I guess, Europe to Australia in terms of the COVID restrictions, there was, massive differences. It was very, very strict in Australia, made traveling very difficult. You basically couldn't, leave the country for like a year essentially. How big of an effect did COVID actually have on you guys as a scene? Because, there was so little going on.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only people that could travel was us, and
Hmm.
we were super lucky as well. We probably went overseas maybe 3 or 4 times.
Hmm.
They were pretty long stints, so I think it was so tough, man. Like we couldn't even leave our house. Like 2 years
Yeah,
of legit not leaving the house. It was like the most draining shit ever. But I think COVID definitely affected us. I think um, yeah, now that it's over, we have no excuses really. To be honest, we need to be able to compete with every other team as well.
that's it. Loves it. We kind of already mentioned about kind of how for you Aussie boys, you do kind of sort of scrim against each other because there's very kind of few other opposition. Do you think that sort of holds back the scene in terms of it stops the rest of the sides getting better, or do you think it's one of those things because you guys are essentially seen as the best? Does it help those other sides, like Encore coming through and Vertex, for example, to improve and kind of maybe match your level?
Yeah, I think it helps other teams maybe more than it helps us.
Hmm.
That's how I've always seen it. But I think it's a bit different nowadays because Vertex, Encore, they've all had experience overseas. They've
Hmm.
all had big boot camps. They played international tournaments. They were just going to improve anyway.
For sure.
Um, Obviously, when we're scrimming these teams because they're our direct competitors, we don't want to like show too many
Show
like
too
set
much.
rounds, set
Yeah.
strategies. Otherwise, we're just hurting ourselves in the long run. So,
Hmm.
but the the one annoying thing is we used to be able to scrim the SEA teams and stuff
Hmm.
like that back in the day. We used to play on like 50 ping, but that's just not an option anymore. Like we used to get scrims against the like teams from Thailand and stuff like that. But unfortunately, due to the routing, it's just not possible these days.
Oh, okay. So there's basically no longer a way that you can kind of comfortably play against any of those teams in Asia anymore.
Not really. No, I think the
Oh.
routing was cooked a long time ago. I think maybe you could do it if you travel to Perth,
Right.
but obviously Perth's like 7 hours away from us
Yeah,
even,
yeah, yeah.
so it's a long way away.
Fair enough. Fair enough. That does make it, of course, like significantly tougher. I think one thing we have to kind of bring up is the slight elephant in the room in terms of order. I think everybody read kind of what was happening and what was going on, but kind of from your side, kind of how did it kind of affect you guys as well? And kind of what was it like for you guys?
I mean, we kind of just backed ourselves. Obviously, it was disappointing, but we always backed ourselves as a roster to find a new home.
Hmm.
I think we found out the news maybe the day of the RMR qual.
Right.
Um, uh,
Bad
so yeah,
timing then.
it was definitely bad timing.
Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, as long as we're getting the results we want as a team, we always have the opportunity to go somewhere else. And that was just basically what we said. We
Hmm.
said, back ourselves, and we'll find somewhere. It's not the end of it for
Yeah.
us.
And for you guys, was it as much of a shock as it was for everyone else? 'Cause I think I know for me personally, it kind of just came out of nowhere. It seemed, you guys were performing better than ever. You kind of obviously just made the signing of XI. Everything was looking up. And then out of nowhere, it's like, okay, well, this is, this whole org's just falling into nothing. Was it as much of a shock for you guys, or did you kind of at least have some sort of forewarning that something was going on?
No, it was a huge shock.
Wow.
We had no fucking clue it was coming. Yeah, it was tough at first, but I mean, yeah, it was definitely a huge shock, and we're still kind of like getting over it and stuff, but
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
we're happy where we are now.
Yeah, I think a bad first week for Vex. I'm right in saying he joined like 2 days earlier, so pretty rough intro for him.
Yeah, and we just kept telling him he was a team killer. He's cursed.
You got to put him in his place. When the youngster, you got to rhythm a bit. It's just that how it
Yeah.
works. So as someone who's kind of regarded, I mean, even though you're only 23, right? You're regarded as a vet of the scene in a way. Do you kind of want to enlighten us on any talent that you believe kind of potentially could be the future? I know Vex we speak about already, but is there any other names kind of in other teams potentially that you think actually really could be one to look out for?
Yeah, I mean, I think for a long time now, I've had my eyes on players like Savage, who's
Hmm,
obviously an encore.
of course.
Vexai, even before he joined Order. I think at the moment there's a kid called not Vertex, Forlex, who played for Vertex on the weekend.
Okay, yeah.
Um, he's a very talented player, and he's not like the flashy style of player that you
Hmm.
expect from Australian. I think he's got some brains around him as well. So I'd say him. Who else would be there? I think you can't look past like the guys in Rooster. Um,
Okay, sure.
Maybe ASAP
Hmm.
and Nedic when he gets unbanned from ESIC.
Of course.
I think players like that, those are the next up and comers. I think.
Fair enough. And how does the structure of kind of your scene domestically help those youngsters kind of to improve? And I know, kind of, course, you got your domestic league. You have a few qualifiers here and there, but kind of how does the structure of the scene help those young guys to get the experience? Because even with like pugging, for example, you kind of do end up playing against the same guys on a regular basis.
I think it's really tough because I was kind of in a similar boat. It's probably better nowadays than it used to be. I
Hmm.
think the main thing is you just need the right mental and you need to grind no matter what.
For sure.
Watching demos stuff like that. I think we have Instafrag Pro League, which is like the Australian
Sure.
version of the FPL.
Hmm.
I think that if people play that correctly, then they'll improve. I think just grinding demos and sticking together as a roster is the main
Important one.
thing.
Yeah, for sure. And another one, kind of, people were quite curious about this. Is there any person that, from your opinion, you think is kind of underrated? You think is someone who doesn't really get the respect that they deserve that you've played with?
In Australia,
Yeah, or anyone, to be honest. Anyone that you've played with that you believe that kind of just doesn't get the respect that they deserve, or they're slightly underrated.
hmm. I mean, I still think Dex is pretty underrated
Okay, sure.
for what he does for Mouse.
Hmm.
He was obviously very highly rated like in the Australian
Hmm.
scene, but since he's moved to Europe, kind of dropped off a bit. But I guess that's kind of the way the system goes.
Of course.
Um, and I think, ooh, I don't want to say too much, but I think the players like Hats, who we
Yes, yeah.
just replaced, he kind of probably didn't get the credit he deserved. But um, yeah, that's probably the only people I can think of off the top of my head.
Fair enough, fair enough. So for someone like yourself, if kind of CS:GO professionally playing sort of wasn't an option anymore, what would be that kind of the next step for you? Do you have any kind of thoughts of what you do outside of professional playing?
Mate, that is a great question. I have no idea. I legitimately have no idea. Because for me, I finished school, even when I was at school, is
Hmm.
when I first started getting salary. So I never
Sure.
really had the intention of doing anything. I kind of just put everything aside and just focused on CS.
Hmm.
But to be honest, I'd probably be doing like a trade, something along those lines.
Sure.
Um, yeah, I don't know.
And I guess, of course, kind of when now you transition to IGL, did you ever see a world in which you transition to coach after your playing career? I mean, you still are only young, but it's kind of I'm talking very very long term. Could you ever see yourself kind of coaching some of those youngsters coming through, looking after one of those teams?
Oh, that seems stressful. That seems too stressful for me. No, I could probably definitely see it. Maybe I don't have the personality for it, but
Mm.
it's definitely something I'd be interested in for sure.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, why not? Done the swap to IGL, so I might as well consider it in the future.
Fair enough.
Hopefully, hopefully we're not talking about that too
Oh
soon.
yeah, no, don't worry, don't worry. I guess another thing for the scene, I think this is definitely not even just Australia, kind of the entirety of Oceania, APAC, and that kind of thing is Valorant, right? Kind of, what are your thoughts on Valorant being kind of that sort of next big up and coming game?
I think it's cool. I think it's honestly, it was people were saying it was going to kill CS.
Hmm.
I think it was good for CS to be honest.
Yeah.
Um, I think in Australia it's really tough with I don't know too much about the franchising and all that
Hmm.
drama, but I would probably never play it. To be honest,
Sure.
I do play it casually with my mates, but competitively it just doesn't seem like the game for me.
Fair enough.
But I can definitely see people going to like that game if it wasn't working out for them in CS because
Mhm.
it's very very similar game in anyway.
So we're never gonna see you ever, try and give it a go. If you got a good offer, for example, like a very good offer, a franchise Australian team, and they're like, come on IGL for our Valorant team, would you ever
I
consider
mean,
it or not at all?
never say never, I guess.
There we go. There we go. Fair enough. Do you think it's a threat at all? Kind of, I guess the other side in terms of poaching some of the potentially good players coming up. I think that's definitely a possibility of kind of potentially poaching some of those youngsters who have a lot of potential to potentially well, take over the scene in CS:GO, moving over towards Valorant and losing them domestically.
Yeah, I mean, possibly. Could definitely be an option. I don't see any reason for anyone in like Oceania to move to Valorant. I just
Mhm.
don't think it's appealing. Even
Sure.
I know some of the Valorant players don't even want to be there because of the franchising drama.
Of course. Yeah.
Um, Especially if they're not going to get a slot, then there's no point for them.
Mhm.
So I don't think it's an option for Oceania anyway.
Do you think kind of with franchising? I know it's all a mess. No one actually really knows. I have no idea even, and I'm involved in the scene. But do you think when it is finally concluded, we know who's franchised, we know who's not. Do you think there's going to be an influx of players coming back into the kind of domestic Australian scene?
I think definitely. I think you'll see it in a lot of scenes, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Even maybe NA with a couple of teams
Of
missing out and stuff,
course,
you
yeah,
might see them coming back to see us. I'd say I'm not sure about Australia. I'd say you see a couple maybe, but not too many.
for
And
sure.
it's honestly the game's changed so much since those players played CS.
That's
You
it.
never know where they might even fit in. So
Fair
yeah, I
enough.
think they should just maybe focus on Valorant still.
Just keep to where they are. Keep to where they are. Well, we'll move on to kind of the slightly more kind of yourself, the personal side. Kind of. So, what was life like growing up for you? Kind of what did you like to get up to? How was growing up? What was it like?
Yeah, I mean for me, I lived in a very small town. There was so there was like 500 people.
Yeah.
Internet was couldn't even play games really, to be honest.
Right.
It
Right.
was hard to get games in. But for me, I kind of grew up. I was a very sporty kid.
Okay. Sure.
So I played a lot of rugby league,
Nice.
touch football, and then I guess you would probably call it football. But I call it
Soccer.
soccer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then as I grew up, I started playing basketball as well,
Yeah. Okay.
and that was just kind of the reason I started playing CS competitively was this kind of sounds like a cliche, but it
Mhm.
was because I got a like pretty bad injuries
Yeah.
playing rugby,
Mhm.
and then I kind of just kept playing CS, and that's kind of how it all happened.
Okay, fair enough. And sort of outside of esports and just generally nowadays, what are your sort of hobbies? I know obviously some people like football or like watching kind of sports or watching films. Kind of for yourself these days, what do you like to get up to outside of esports?
Um, Mostly just hanging with like my mates and stuff like that,
Mm,
going out with teammates, gym, like
of
fitness
course,
stuff like that. I don't really have time to like play any sports
yeah.
on the side as much as I'd
You're a
love to play
busy
like
man.
a casual
Yeah,
casual basketball or something. That'd be awesome. But
yeah.
no, mostly just that and just catching up with people that don't see that often.
Fair enough. And so for yourself, this one's a kind of it's different for every person. But what does the sort of daily routine look like for you when you have an official? What is kind of your schedule that you like to stick to kind of make sure you're ready for games?
When we have officials,
Mm-hmm.
make sure I always pretty much always have breakfast. Because some days I'll skip that just
Sure.
because I wake up late. You know what I mean?
Clay,
And
you've been there. Yeah.
yeah, get some just a little bit of exercise. Doesn't really matter. And then just music literally, and then we do obviously gameplay and stuff with the coach. And then yeah, anti and stuff like that. And then just aim prac, deathmatch, but nothing too serious.
Mhm. And so this one's I think always quite an interesting one because it's different for every person. But for yourself, how difficult was it having the conversation with your parents and saying, okay, I'm gonna go full time CS:GO, like I'm gonna make it pro. Like how difficult was the conversation that, or was it pretty easy?
For me, it was pretty easy. My mum was very supportive. My dad probably not so much, but at the end of it all, like he's supportive. He's very very supportive now.
Hmm.
Um, Pretty much all I had to do was show them how serious it was with contracts and stuff like that. Actually, I'm pretty sure I gave them a 64-page contract back in the day, and they
Wow.
read the whole thing. So I think once they saw all that, they kind of understood and they supported me no matter what.
Sure.
My mum was pushing me to move to North America back in the day when I was like
Okay.
17, 16, 17.
You weren't tempted
But I
at
didn't
all?
want. I was tempted, but I just had too much going on in my personal life,
Yeah.
like had misses and stuff like that. I didn't want to just
For sure.
leave for something that wasn't probably even long term.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess was it kind of a case as well? I know for a lot of people, even myself included, in terms of like commentating, it was like kind of showing the financial side. Like, look, here you go. Like, you actually can make a living off this. Was that one of those things that kind of really helped to kind of, I guess, get your dad on board?
Oh yeah, definitely. As soon as he saw the financial side, he understood it and he knew that it would be at the beginning of something much bigger.
Mm.
Um, and then I think my mum has probably watched. I think she made a tweet the other day after our official that was the first game she missed in like seven
I was
years
gonna say she
or
watches a lot of them,
six
right? I've
years.
seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. Don't think my dad's watched a single one. To be honest, he said he can't watch it, but yeah, I think I just had to just prove it to him pretty much.
There we go. That's what we love to hear. So we'll move on to kind of the slightly more kind of Twitter, Reddit questions, random questions. And a good one kind of following the same suit is kind of what is your warm up routine? I think everyone has different ones. I know Zywood doesn't even warm up; he just pugs straight away. But kind of for yourself, what is your warm up routine?
Well, to be honest, I never back when I was like 16, 17, 18, I never DM'd. Probably never
Okay.
spent maybe the max minutes I spent in DM was like 10 minutes
Mm-hmm.
in like those whole 3 years. But nowadays, since I'm getting a bit older, I gotta get in the aimbots. I
Getting a bit
do
older.
usually do like 500 aimbots,
Mm-hmm.
and then 20 to 30 minutes of DM. Keep it
Sure.
real simple.
Nice.
I'm just kind of chill and listen to music, and then when I feel like I'm ready or warmed up, I'll jump into the pugs or whatever.
Love to see it. Love to see it. Another one is what's your favorite food or snack? If you could pick kind of one thing and you have to eat it, and like your favorite thing to choose from, what is it?
My favorite food or snack. Can't go
Anything.
wrong with a chicken palmy.
Oh, okay.
Chicken palmy
Okay.
at the
Decent
local
choice.
pub. Yep.
Okay, fair enough. Someone asked as well, do you like Vegemite?
I hate that shit.
It's horrible. I tried it on the
It's just,
desk. It's
well, I
grim.
saw you guys. You guys had it in a spoon. You
Yeah, it
could
was
have put it
horrible.
on toast or something.
It was
But
just
nah, it's
disgusting.
not my preferred spread. Definitely not.
Is it one of those things that like it's like seen as like Australian ever, but that no one really eats it, or do people actually generally eat that?
Nah, people genuinely eat that.
Oh my
I
god,
think I
why?
think you guys probably had a bit too much at the time. To be
Oh, it's
honest,
horrible.
it's meant to be lightly spreaded, but you guys just had like a spoonful.
Yeah, it was pretty grim. Got another one. Conky was saying he's banned from interviewing you. Why?
Ah, here we go.
Why,
Here we go.
why is that?
Just a little bit of a mishap at
Yeah.
DreamHack.
What was that about? What happened there?
Well,
A
to be honest,
confession.
I just woke up and it was like 30-minute Uber, and I came in.
Hmm.
Conky put me on the spot there.
Yeah.
He was asking any special ladies because my mum was in the crowd. So he
Oh,
wanted me to say, he was setting me up to say my mum, and then I was
yeah,
kind of just decided I'd just troll it and
yeah.
say whatever I wanted.
It was pretty good. I liked it personally on the desk. It was, it was like it was a good segue for our bit. So fair play.
I'm glad.
Someone asked about asking about the Dexter incident at the airport and Dexter leaving his dreams. I'm not sure if there's a context behind that, but
The Dexter
yeah,
incident.
I don't really know. I tried to have a little look and see what the context was. I think it
Oh, is
was.
that like the? It's like the Reddit meme, I think, because someone posted on Reddit that Dexter left all his kids behind,
Oh
or
yeah,
his
yeah.
kids, or something like that.
How does he deal with
Yeah.
that? How does he think of that whole meme? I know he leans into it like very nicely, but like what does he actually does he find it funny, or was he like really confused at first?
I think he finds it funny. I think he's a very, very chilled, laid back guy, so he finds stuff like that funny.
Okay.
He probably. I was pretty sad when he left us, to be honest. Let's be
Mhm.
real here.
Yeah, he kind of seems like the kind of the dad of the scene in a way.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I think I've actually got the context. So apparently, oh yeah, it's apparently about Rops arguing with his kid. Rops said Dex was arguing with
Yeah.
his kid at the airport.
I think it was a copy pasta for a while or something like
There
that.
we go. There we go. So someone asks, with ping issues in the region, how often do you get to scrim against some of the Asian teams? Like as we've already kind of mentioned this now, is it basically never at all that you ever get to kind of so like for example the rare atoms, if they're ever boot camping a little bit more central, is it never a case you get to kind of scrim them ever?
Not really. We had a chat about it the other day
Mhm.
actually because we thought it might have been a possibility again, but it just seems like it's out of the realms of possibilities. Unfortunately, it would probably help improve both scenes, to be
Mhm.
honest. But I don't think it's possible right now.
For you guys, is there ever like kind of conversations about potentially? boot camping in Asia. Rather, everyone talks about boot camping in Europe is the most kind of outdated kind of question and scenario, but in Asia and kind of as a whole, getting more experience against those guys, who I think is definitely safe to say the kind of the Asian style of CS is very different to anywhere else. Is there ever conversations about? I think what would be a slightly, I guess, cheaper and quicker flight over somewhere in Asia to kind of boot camp against those guys.
Yeah, we did think about that before the upcoming RMR,
Yeah.
just because there'll be less jet lag and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But we just decided that it's better to just stay here and just prep here. Obviously, because we'll be playing those Asian teams at the RMR, we don't want to practice against some of them anyway.
Of course.
So we'll just do our own like demo reviews of them.
For sure. And outside of, we've already spoken about Rare Atom, but generally as the RMR, also yourselves, who do you think is actually the biggest threat to kind of, to make it through? That you think potentially, if it's not going to be you guys, it will be them.
I'll be completely honest. I can't remember who's at the RMR.
It's IHC, Rare Atom, and GG How International, that kind of mixed team. It's like Meztool and like Facecrack and Davcost. Yeah, they made it through the Middle East.
That's a weird lineup.
Yeah, they're like all from all over.
IHC. I think IHC, okay. We've obviously versed them before, so they're like, you can't take them easy either. I'd say all three teams, like literally anyone could win.
For sure.
We're just focusing on ourselves.
I was going to ask as well about kind of GG How, whether, for you guys, because they are, I mean, I don't think they're a mix, but they basically were a mix. They kind of came together just before the Middle East qualifier. I think they all flew out to Dubai and did it from there. I got to cast some of it, but to you guys, is there any specific prep into a side like that, which is a little bit random?
Probably not so much. We'll watch a couple of their games from the qualifier. Just get a broad understanding, but it'll just be mainly focusing on ourselves and being the best way you possibly can.
Fair enough. And well, I guess that more or less concludes things, to be perfectly honest. I think the other things that we were going to talk about, we kind of already touched on, which is about Valorant, for example. We already know it's not a threat, and everyone can stay there. But I can open up the floor now, of course, for you. You're more than welcome to say whatever you want. Your thank yous or whatnot. Your links are already all below as well. Your @s below your heads.
Oh, easy.
All the stuff's there, but you're more than welcome to say whatever.
Thanks for the opportunity to interview. It's cool as. And shout out to my manager. Shout out to Grayhound. Let go. Grayhound up.
There we go.
That's it really.
Love to say. Well, bro, I mean, thank you very much for joining me. It's been a pleasure. Best of luck in the RMR as well. Rare Atom. A tough first game, but I think you've got something to work with, especially now you got Vex out actually, officially in the roster. So I'm looking forward to it. And I think I'm right in saying that first game's on the 7th. So should be.
Yep, 7th.
There we go. Well, mate, best of luck. Thank you for joining me. Of course, thank you everyone at home. It's been a pleasure. Ne0 Gets To Know. And until then, we bid you farewell. So goodbye.